Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Living on Music. I'm Steve Hauk. And what I love to do, and I do it often when I do my intros or my descriptions of the shows that I do, many of them are musicians that I have grown up with. They were part of my life growing up with music. And whether I was, in my tweens or my early teens, mid-teens, late teens, and my 20s in college, those years were the seminal years of for many of us, of how our musical adoration and our obsession in a lot of ways, and the bands that we loved during those times. And to have interviewed people that I fell for back then, and then 30, 40 plus years later, be able to talk to them, like Peter Wolf of Jay Giles, who was a huge band fan. We were huge fans of the Jay Giles band in high school. Of course, all the Southern rock in Wilton, Connecticut, like the Skinnerd Band, and interviewing Ricky Medlock and meeting Gary Rossington, talking to Doug Gray, the lead singer for the Marshall Tucker Band, interviewing Greg Allman, as well as Derek Trucks and people like that, Mickey Hart from the Dead, all these kind of people that I grew up with, and the music that I loved was back then. And this guest today on Living on Music's next episode is no exception. Roger Earl has been celebrating 52 years of the band Foghat. And Foghat obviously was huge back then, and Roger is continuing to bang away. Foghat continues their run, but what a run they've had over the years. Behind me, right here, yes, it is my favorite hockey arena because I am a lifelong New York Islanders fan, and this is Nassau Coliseum on Long Island, and also was where I saw Foghat, and I think it was around 1977. We went and saw their tour, and it was coming right past all of these amazing albums they did. You know, they had 2 platinum records, a multi-platinum record, 8 gold records, songs like, of course, Slow Ride, Fool for the City, Stone Blue, I Just Want to Make Love to You, Drive and Wheel. That band really was part of my heart and soul in high school and into college. And they have continued to go strong. They even have a new record coming out called Sonic Mojo in November of this year. And Roger Earl is a guy who, again, co-founded the band with Lonesome Dave Peverett, and they continued to go through. They lost Dave in the 90s, and then but Roger has continued with Foghat to this very day, and we're going to talk about everything they're doing now, what they have coming up, and then, of course, hopefully take a Living on Music walk down his memory lane about Foghat and the beginning of those kinds of days for him. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome to Living on Music, Roger Earl. Roger Earl, welcome to Living on Music, man.
Dave, how you doing?
Oh, man. I'm telling you, Roger, I've told everybody for 3.5 years since I've done this show, been a music journalist for about 25 and TV for 40. But I've told everybody one of my biggest thrills of interviewing people from across the world, of all legends and people like that, is the music that I, embraced when I was a youngster, and when music began to come into my heart and soul. And boy, were you guys part of it then, and you're still doing it, Roger. I'm so happy that you're here with me to talk about things like that. I told you that behind me is Nassau Coliseum, where I drove down from Connecticut with 5 friends in 1977, and we saw you guys, and that was when we were obsessed, and I still love what you do. But welcome to Living on Music, Roger. Let's talk a little bit about, obviously, I want to talk about what's going on right now with you, and let's talk about that. But how did Roger Earl and you guys, since you've been churning, touring, doing things all through the last number of years, how did you deal with the last 3.5 years of that crazy pandemic thing? How did you deal with that?
Well, I'm having coffee now because it's morning for me, but
yes,
how did I deal with the pandemic? It was like the first vacation I'd had since I was 12 years old.
Oh God, perfect.
couldn't see anybody. Everybody was like, confined to wherever they were.
Right.
I was at home with my girlfriend, my wife, and my manager.
Perfect.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
she's the Holy Trinity, 3 in 1.
Yeah.
Uh, I got to grow my vegetables and eat them before the deer and the rabbits got at it, and the
Right.
raccoon too. I went fishing. My children were still living here. They've since moved down to Georgia, actually.
Okay.
But they would come to the end of the garden and wave, and a couple of my friends would come over at the end of the garden and wave, and I'd say, "Take a bottle of wine. It's in the wine shed."
Nice.
I was on vacation.
Right.
I did like little podcasts and stuff on my phone. Talk to people. I talked about good evening, everybody. How are we today? I gave little quotes to try and bring everybody's spirits up.
Sure.
I went on about how great the workers were, the firemen, the people keeping the stores open, the people delivering stuff. Shit happens, so get over it. Quotes from that. Save water, drink wine. That one usually came out in the evening podcast.
Beautiful. Sure.
I just tried to lift people's spirits a little bit because it was a nightmare. It was really rough for some people. Obviously, people who lost, folks, families, and friends. In some ways, it was pretty scary. But I'm at a point in my life where that doesn't really scare me anymore.
Right.
I don't it really did actually.
Right.
I love what I do. I play drums in a rock and roll band. And,
right. Sure do.
Life is good.
Oh, well, and that's what's very interesting, Roger, and talking to hundreds of musicians, including people in the legends as well as local DC musicians. Yeah, not being able to play live or see each other was tough, but musicians also found ways to, as you did, found ways to kind of relax, have a moment, write music. What did the music part of your life do over those times? Did it give you a moment to breathe? And then I know you kicked back out with a vinyl project, 8 Days on the Road in 2021, recorded live at Daryl's house club. So that sounds wonderful. So it did kick back in.
Yeah. It was, I was on vacation. I relaxed, hung out with my wife. I kind of enjoyed it. I hate saying it, but I had a good time. Like the rest of the world. I'm stuck. I was stuck at home, which is great. I mean, I actually did stuff, and we live on a houseboat, so I had to repair a few things. But there again, I could only use the stuff that I had. There was, life was good. It was good. I set my drums up. I play from time to time. I have my wife encourages me. I have a drum pad here in the living room.
Right.
I have a drum kit set up in the shed outside. I have I have an electronic drum kit upstairs, and this is the worst part about it. This is the worst part. In the bedroom, I have a pedal, a DW pedal, and a pad. What I mean, am I? That is terrible. In the bedroom, got a drum pedal and a pad set up. Well, that's because we live in a very small house.
Right.
Linda, our manager, has to work downstairs. She's got 3 computers.
Wow.
So if I'm upstairs, I can like watch something on TV or a film or listen to some music and noise up there. So that's my life.
Well, and that again, you're not alone. You were able to take that moment and kind of again enjoy a time with family and also take a breather. Your band right now. Let's talk about the current Foghat and give me the lineup. I know who it is, but I want to hear you talk about them because each of these guys is special in one way or the other too, and they've been able to continue your Foghat legacy with you.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the bright one in the band, Brian Bassett.
Yeah.
He is also our lead and slide guitar player, brilliant guitar player.
And from Molly Hatchet, right? He played with them for a while.
Was with Molly Hatchet, but previously he was the lead guitar player in Play That Funky Music, White Boy.
Wild Cherry.
Oh. 1974 when they had it. 74,
oh my God.
We actually play that on stage as one of our encores.
Oh, you do? Oh, fabulous.
It is. And then, of course, we have our new, well, he's been with us 2 years. Scott Holt is our singer and guitar player. He played with Buddy Guy for 10 years.
Oh.
We've actually been together. Actually, I've known him since 2014. He came down to our studio down in Florida and hung out because we needed somebody. Everybody has a stand-in in this band. Not that that happens very often,
right?
But when, we'll book like 10, 14, 15, 20 shows. And rather than canceling, especially because the promoters have put a lot of money into promoting it, we get half the money up front anyway.
Right.
We're at a point where something could happen. I had blood work this morning. Look.
Wow.
No, I stay healthy.
Good.
Yeah. Scott Holt is an incredible singer and guitar player. As I said, he played with Buddy Guy for 10 years. That's how he cut his teeth.
Wow.
We've been playing with us since then. He played on our last studio album, Under the Influence. He played on about 4 or 5 songs. He actually sang on 3 of them.
Right. He played in your side project, the Earl and the Agitators.
That was one of my favorite records. What happened with that was we were doing our previous album, Under the Influence. It was a double album, vinyl, but we were about 3 songs short to go on the record because there's only so many minutes you can put on each side of the record. We had plenty of room, and so we didn't need to do anything other than write 3 more songs. So I invited Scott down to our studio in DeLand, Florida, and instead of writing 3, we wrote 17.
Oh,
hence Earl and the Agitators came about, and in fact the name comes about. We were down in Nashville at one time doing a project down there, and after a couple of bottles of red wine, actually after the first bottle, there's an area before you go to the second one when you have enlightenment and moments of brilliance. And Brian Bassett, who's a tall lad, jumped up on the console and said, "Earl and the Agitators," and it stuck. So I was particularly proud and pleased with that album.
Right.
Rodney O'Quinn.
Right. From Pat Travers' band, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
We stole it from Pat. Actually, Pat okayed it. But Craig McGregor, our previous bass player who passed away, is it 7 years ago now? 6 years ago? Craig passed? 5 years ago. Seems like a lifetime.
Right.
But he actually handpicked Rodney O'Quinn to join the band. And Rodney's been an incredible asset. He's a real road warrior. Of course, traveling with Pat Travers for numerous years.
Right.
The band I play with now is I played with some great musicians over the years. Really, Dave, Rod, Craig,
sure,
Jeff. But I'm having such a good time with these folks. It's a real band. Nobody moans. Everybody loves playing. It's Rodney and Scott are they're in their late 50s, so they're the youngsters in the band, and they brought a whole new. They brought some fresh blood into the band. They don't moan. They love playing. I'll give you an example. Sometimes we do most of our dates are fly-ins. We fly in. We bring guitars, and I bring my pedals, cymbals, and snare drum.
Right.
And sometimes we have to drive because it's just not feasible to fly.
Sure.
You'd have half a dozen connections. You'd have to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning and wouldn't get there until 7 o'clock at night.
Right.
But that's a story. So we drive. We have either a Sprinter or we'll rent some couple of vans. Everybody says, I'll drive. Nobody moans. Everybody's really cool about being there.
Wow.
We've got our sets are usually an hour and 15 minutes. We're up to an hour and 45 now, if we're allowed. So
wow.
It's I'm having the time of my life playing with these people.
Oh, it sounds like it, Roger. Watching some of the clips of you guys playing recently, there is a rock and roll power to this version, this era of Foghat. Is there a comparison that you give to the earlier days when you guys again were on fire live, and I saw you again right behind me at Nassau Coliseum in my heyday, and it was still one of the greatest live albums ever to me is Foghat Live. I just love every second of it because of the energy. The energy seems like it's still going all these years later with this part of a Foghat.
I've been accused of being the Energizer Bunny. No,
yeah.
Music is powerful.
Yes.
Just the other day we played somewhere in Arkansas, I think, and after the show, and we played a really long set, about an hour and 50 minutes, I think, because we could. The people were fantastic, and afterwards we were sitting in the dressing room having a sandwich and having a glass of wine, and Scott Holt said to me, he said, "Rog, isn't this great?" He said, "How many people go to work and after you've finished working, people clap and cheer?" And
yes,
that sort of sums up how it is for us. Our audiences and Foghat fans, I mean, they've been through us through thick and thin. It's all about the music. You know, we've lost Rod, we lost Dave. I mean, they were huge, integral parts of this band.
Right.
And I've known them since the very beginning.
Sure.
And it's but it's about the music. That's what it's about. It's not about individuals. It's about music. The reason I played music in the first place is because I'm a fan. I love music, and the same with everybody else in this band. Rodney O'Quinn, our current bass player, a new bass player who's been with us 8 years, said that when he had got the live album, Foghat Live, he said he wore it out. And he was a huge fan of Craig McGregor's. And of course, they got to meet each other. And that's why we play. That's why one plays, because you're a fan. You love music.
Yes. But the music is timeless. That's what's beautiful about it, Roger, because again, I was 16, I'm 62 now. So about 46 years ago, I fell in love with you guys as a band, and now I play the music still, and it's timeless. The crowds in the clips of you guys now, they're singing full bore into the lyrics, slow ride, and just, I mean, everything that you guys do. So that has to be wonderful. You just showed me your new record, and that is Sonic Mojo. Let's see that again, sir, because this is exciting. And look at that logo. That's the logo, which is timeless logo as well. And look at the vine. And wow. Oh my, that's fabulous. And that is Sonic Mojo. That is due out in November, right, Roger?
November 10th.
Where did the music for Sonic Mojo come from? There we go. Where did that music come from, and how did it develop and get to where it is?
It came from us. The name Sonic Mojo?
Sure.
Title? Well, actually, I think I believe it might have been our manager who came up with the word Sonic. We were discussing like how we're going to call it. You know, when you have a new album out, sometimes it's one of the songs like comes to the forefront, and that's like Fall for the City. That was like the title. It was easy. And other times it's like, well, what do we want to call it? It's like picking a name for a band, which is
right.
I'm going to read you a quote from the album. Now look at that. There's stories here.
Oh,
we tell stories about everything that's going on, everything that's gone on. There's pictures of everybody that's affiliated with this band.
Wow.
I think I say employ, but we didn't. I don't know what we do without them. About 12 people work with this band, like
really?
make it run.
Perfect.
Yeah, here we go.
Can't beat that.
Sonic, adjective, a frequency within the audibility range of the human ear of waves and vibrations.
Oh my!
I like that.
That is fabulous.
Mojo, a noun, a charm, an amulet thought to have magic powers. Yeah. So, this record has, you know, a number of like classic like blues songs. There's a song by Chuck Berry. There's a song on here that Rodney J. Crowell wrote for us. Well, we took it actually.
Wow.
There's a Howlin' Wolf song on here. There's a song written by Willie Dixon.
Oh man.
And there's a bunch of songs that we wrote, but more importantly, there's also 3 songs on here that we co-wrote with Kim Simmons.
Oh, from Savoy Brown, your guy.
And Kim was the one who gave me my first shot back in 1997.
Oh yes.
And we left Savoy Brown in 1971. And I remained friends with him, and we reconnected around 1976.
Right.
He had a great deal of success, and obviously Foghat actually started really rocking.
Yes, they did.
We stayed friends over the years, and about 10 or so years ago, he joined our same agency through our manager. And so we got to play a bunch of shows together.
That's wonderful.
Kim actually played on our last studio album, Under the Influence, previous one.
That's right.
And after we finished doing it, we finished it down in Nashville. And afterwards, Kim and I were hanging out, and he said, Rog, he said, I'd really like to write a couple of songs for Foghat. And I said, that would be great, so long as you're playing on them. And he said, I'll play on them.
Oh.
Unfortunately, though, Kim got ill. He sent me these 3 songs, about 4 songs, actually, about 3 years ago. It was just vocals, guitar, and I think he was playing to a click track. And about 2 years ago, we started working on it.
To see, tells it like it is. She keeps a mystery. She's got it all. She's dragging you in. She's a little bit of everything. Sweet as an angel. She's a little bit of everything. rich crowd at a high-class bash in the corner bar, talking trash. She's with me, it's a win-win. She's a little bit of everything.
And coincidentally, Roger, I just interviewed Pat DeSalvo and Garnett Grimm, and so when they were the newer Savoy Browners, but when I was researching you again, and I knew that you had played with them, I was like, oh, Kim Simmons, really, what a instrumental part of a lot of careers. He re-elevated those guys later. Had you early. Let's talk a little bit about, if we could, as part of Living on Music's ride, Roger Earl's evolution in a nutshell. I mean, you're born in London and you had a wonderful musical house. You had a father playing piano at home and in local pubs, right? There was a musical environment in your home.
Yeah, Mum, there was always music in the house. Ever since I was a kid, and my extended family, like my father came from the East End of London, and my grandmother lived there.
Wow.
He had a record player. And so that was the first time I saw a record player. It was at my grandmother's house on the East End in Forest Gate.
Right.
And I remember putting records on and like listening to them, and had the big horn on it. His master's voice, and that was the start of it. And at home there was the radio was always on. Of course, then we got a record player, and we would play records. We had a Grundig tape recorder that my older brother Colin set up.
Right, Colin.
And we would tape a bunch of songs and records. That was how I learned to play drums.
Wow.
Well, I would have all these songs, Muddy Waters, a lot of Chuck Berry, some other sort of blues artists, and I would have a line going out into my father's woodwork shed, which was soundproofed. And I would sit in there like two little 6-inch speakers either side of my head. And that was how I would learn to play. Around 9 o'clock at night, Mum would unplug it. She would unplug the lights and the sound because, well, the house was attached to houses either side of us.
Right.
We soundproofed it. It went, it was my father's woodworking shed. It was 6 foot by 6 foot. It actually went down to about 5 foot by 5 foot, I think. And it was 7 feet high, and that's how I learned to play. The neighbors were pretty cool. Nobody really complained because it was soundproof with egg boxes. And
you initially had a desire to play piano.
My parents were great. They always encouraged me in what I wanted to do. I worked after school, like 3 nights a week. I worked Saturday mornings at a bakery, and Saturday afternoons I would do my drum lessons. So I had my own money. So when I bought my first drum kit, Dad had to sign on the dotted line because I was 15, I think.
Right.
And he said, well, listen, son, you got to keep up the payments. I said, yeah, I will, Dad. And I did.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. My parents, I had great parents.
But Roger, he played piano, and you wanted, I guess you what I heard about is that you wanted to initially be a piano player, and Colin, who ended up being the keyboard player for Mungo Jerry in the summertime and all that, which is wonderful. He got the right to play the piano, and God bless that you got the drums, and look what you've done for so many years.
Well, the piano is a little bit. You have to understand the piano is also a percussive instrument.
Right. Right.
It is. But my brother, he fell in love with it because he heard Jerry Lee Lewis, as I did when I was 13, and that was it. We were never the same in our family after going to see Jerry Lee Lewis in a theater in Southwest London. I was 12 or 13 years old, 1960, somewhere around there.
Yes, right.
It was that was a revelation for me.
Yes.
And my mother said I was never the same after that. It addled my brain.
Oh, my. Well, you started playing with local bands. You were a commercial artist.
Yeah, I left school when I was 15. My friend, I had a best friend at school who was a bass player, Dave Hutchins. And he was in a band with Ray Dorset, who became the lead singer with Mungo Jerry.
Right.
And we were friends. We all grew up together. They'd started playing when they were like 9 or 10 years old.
Oh, my.
I joined the band when I was 16, I think, somewhere around there, maybe 17, something like that.
Right.
And they were a really good band. They were already well seasoned. I was just playing in my dad's woodworking shed. But I practiced every day. I had pads. I still do. Anyway, that was the start of my music career, playing with three guys I went to school with and grew up with.
Oh, that's fabulous. And you had a measure of success there. And then how did you get the nod, the audition, and then join Savoy Brown at 20 years old?
Well, actually, we were a three-piece at the time, myself, Ray Dorset and Dave Hutchins. And work had kind of like slowed, playing at gigs had slowed down to like a trickle. And I answered an ad in the Melody Maker for a blues band wanting a bass player and drummer. So myself and my friend Dave, who's a bass player, we applied for the job. We didn't get it the first time round. And about a month or so later, I got a call from Savoy Brown's manager, Harry Simmons, who was a booking agent at the time.
Right.
And also was with the same agency that our band was with. So I get a call to go back and audition again. I borrowed my father's car, brought my drums. It was in a place called the Nag's Head in Battersea, South London.
Yeah.
And I dragged the drums up the stairs. It was in a pub. And I played for probably well over a couple of hours. And I started packing up the drums. And, I was going back to work. I had a job in central London as a commercial artist. Good job. Yeah. And they said, where are you going? I said, I'm going back to work. They said, we've got a gig in Birmingham tonight.
Oh, God. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that began a 5-album run with them, right? I mean, that is an incredible early run for you, Roger, even pre-Foghat.
Yeah, but the other thing is it kind of put my day job on the line. Now, just to sort of point out what it's like for musicians, I didn't get paid for the first 6 weeks. Oh. Now, I'd come back to central London from playing in Newcastle or Liverpool or Birmingham or somewhere, looking like the cat dragged in something, and I'd say, I'm sorry, I'm late today because the trains and the planes. And they say, so where'd you play last night, Rog?
Oh God!
I have to tell you, these people at the studio that I worked at, an industrial design group, were absolutely fantastic. They knew what I wanted to do. I was always on the phone, like booking dates or trying to get dates or doing something. So that, but I was good at what I did, but they tolerated me. Oh. And then eventually I had to, I got paid about 5 weeks after I joined the band. I didn't get any back pay, but that's something else.
Right.
I wanted to make sure that I was in the band. A quick one.
Yeah.
After about 2 weeks, we'd done about it was about 6 or 8 gigs. I go up to the agency and talk to Harry, the manager of the band, Harry Simmons.
Right.
I said, Harry, I haven't got paid yet. And he'd said, what? You haven't got paid yet, boy? Oh, we'll see about that then. Another few weeks go by. I go up to the agency, which is in central London. It was about a couple of 100 yards away from where I worked, actually.
Right.
I said, Harry, I haven't got paid yet. He said, what? You haven't got paid yet, boy? Oh, we'll see about that then. After about 6 weeks, I go in and the same scenario happens. I think I got paid on the 6th or 7th week.
Oh, my.
But the typical musician, I didn't care about that. I wanted to
play. Exactly.
And Savoy Brown was a fantastic band. Back then, Lonesome Dave was mostly the rhythm guitar player. Kim Simmons, even in his youth, what was he, 19 then, was a brilliant guitar player and was obviously going somewhere. Chris Jordan was the singer in Savoy Brown, and he had this I think he was probably one of the best British blues singers to ever come out of Great Britain. So, I was in a band that was going somewhere. We were having a really good time.
Yeah.
And it was a great start.
But and it does sound like it, Roger. I mean, touring the U.S. extensively, you recorded 5 records. Lonesome Dave Peverett, or Dave Peverett at the time, and you decided you were around 24 years old. You decided to leave to form Foghat. Now, how did you and Dave meet? You met through Savoy Brown. Was he already there? Did he join when you did, or what?
Dave had been in Savoy Brown about 2 or 3 months before I joined.
Wow.
So we didn't know each other, but an interesting thing about that was on our very last tour, oddly enough, which was a bus tour, Dave and I, after we'd finished playing, would sit in the front lounge of the bus, have a glass of wine and have some cheese and crackers and stuff. And we would talk about growing up in London. Dave was a year and a half, maybe 2 years older than me.
Right.
But we used to go to the same shows. We used to go, we saw Jerry Lee Lewis at West Ham bars. Oh. We saw Chuck Berry at Hammersmith Odeon. We went to all the same places. We saw the London bands in the various clubs. I was a big Stones fan back then.
Yeah.
I sat and they were like the band to go and see.
Yeah.
Along with Earl Davis and his Rhythm and Blues All Stars. I used to see the Stones at Eel Pie Island and Richmond Club, Ricky Tick Club. It was a great time to be a kid growing up in London.
Totally. Absolutely. And what was the eventual reason that the two of you decided to form your own band? It seems like, I mean, look what happened. 52 years of this glorious run. What initially put you and Dave and then you created this, and I'm telling you, I grew up with you guys learning what rock and roll was all about, thanks to Zeppelin, Southern rock, and Foghat. And that was my influential music for me. And how did you guys come up with the Foghat sound and begin the run with Tony Stevens and Rod Price?
How do we begin it? Well, the reason we left Savoy Brown, it was time for a change.
Okay.
They had a new record deal. The band was doing fantastic back then. We were earning between $7,000 and maybe $15,000 a night. Now that's big bucks back in 1970, 71.
Sure is. Yeah.
We didn't get paid for any of the records that we played on. We didn't get any of the writers' royalties that we wrote songs. So that would have been Dave mainly anyway.
Right.
But that was okay. We were like when I first joined the band, it was £12.50 a week. Then it got to $60 a week. I mean, $60 a week, wife and kid to keep. It was a little difficult. They had a new record deal, multi-$100,000 deal.
Right.
And we hadn't got anything up to that point other than like having a blast making and creating music. And it was just time for a change. So they fired Tony Stevens, and they said to Dave and I we could stay on if we wanted to. We went back to my room in the hotel. We were in San Francisco, and Dave and I and Tony started writing some music. Myself and Lonesome Dave went downstairs the next morning and told Harry Simmons, the manager, that we would be leaving, and but we'd stay for as long as Kim needed us. And he explained that we would never work in England or in the States again, and that he would blackball us. And in fact, he stole from his brother Kim eventually, but we'll leave that alone.
Oh my!
Yeah,
oh, that's intense. And so it seemed like that move. Yeah, it seemed like that move really made sense for you guys to do. But my God, I mean, you moved to Long Island, and was that because your manager lived there?
Yeah. During my tenure with Savoy Brown, I met our first manager, Tony Otida, over here. He was there was a beer promotion a beer company that was promoting the first tour that Savoy Brown did with the Nice and who was it? A band called Family.
Okay.
So we were touring over here, and I met him. His name was Tony Otida, and we were talking, and I let him know that I was a fishing fan. I love to fish, therefore I am.
Yes.
He said, "You ever caught a bluefish or a striped bass?" I said,
"Yes."
"What's that?" And so he invited me to stay at his parents' house out here on Long Island. The chief and Alice, two beautiful people.
Oh, and, fabulous.
My first bluefish, and I said, "I like it here." I've lived on Long Island ever since we moved here in '73.
Oh,
and I've established myself as a local that talks funny.
No, I love it. And that's some of my dearest friends live on Long Island. Again, huge Islander fan. And I've saw Pink Floyd, The Wall here at the Nassau Coliseum as well. And some amazing experiences on Long Island. But boy, what you guys kicked in, Roger. Did you expect that over the next 5 to 10 years and longer even, but even those initial years of Foghat, things really elevated with that amazing rock and roll sound? I mean, it really took off quickly. Did you expect that?
Well, the first time we came over here, after the record was released in the States, I Just Want to Make Love to You was written by Willie Dixon, originally recorded by Muddy Waters.
Yeah.
Started getting airplay. So our manager, and we couldn't really work in. Actually, we did a 3-week tour in England supporting. Come to me in a minute. Anyway,
sure.
Captain Beefheart, which was really cool.
Yeah,
they were a lot of fun to play with. But that was because Derek Taylor, who was the Beatles publicist at the time, really took a shine to Foghat. A record had been released on Bearsville, which is a subsidiary of Warner Brothers, and Derek was working for Warner Brothers at the time.
Right. Okay.
He really liked the band, so he got us our dates. So that Derek Taylor was a really, really cool guy.
Wow.
Helped us immensely, as he probably did the Beatles. That's another story. Anyway, we did that. Our manager said, "We're getting played on the air over here," and we came over. Our H1 visas didn't arrive when we first got here, and our first show we did was in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Oh my!
It was for the city. We played in the park, but we couldn't take the money because we didn't have our work visas. But we played anyway, and we got our visas about 3 or 4 days later. And those people in the Midwest, they say they are the very best, and we got our money.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then off we went. We played everywhere and anywhere, people's backyards, bat mitzvahs, bar mitzvahs, clubs, hellholes, fields. We played anywhere and everywhere. I think our first tour, we were here for about a year, I think. It was pretty intense. We played everywhere.
Is it true that your manager ran the lights and mixed your sound?
Oh, yeah.
At the time?
He used to do the whole thing. It was like a...
Something else was interesting. How did you ship your equipment?
Oh, we used to put it on planes, yeah. And,
as luggage?
Yeah, as luggage.
It didn't stand up very well.
How did you get, how long did you get away with that?
I don't know, we travelled like that for about a couple of years, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. You had just the one guy did the equipment. You know, he had the band, 4 members of the band, and a manager who did the lights and the sound, and had another guy who took care of the equipment, getting it on the planes, and occasionally have to bribe some of the people to put it on the plane, you know, as luggage.
Then we heard about trucks. That was a big day when we heard about trucks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They say, well, you can put it on a truck. It's a good idea.
A record company, Bearsville Records, Albert Grossman, who was the manager of the band, Peter, Paul and Mary, Bob Dylan. He was supporting everything that we did. So we weren't really getting any money, but then we had sandwiches and wine.
Perfect. That's what a band needs, food and wine.
But we managed to survive on that. And that was our first tour. And then our second tour, when we came back, we went back to England and started recording on our second album. And it was, again, there was interest in getting dates and bookings, and everything started rolling.
Totally.
The reason I think this band actually, the main reason was because that's all we wanted to do. it was, we didn't care where we played or whatever. And every time we got on stage, we would give it everything. That was one of the beauties of working with Lonesome Dave. When he got on stage, even when he was ill later on in life, he'd give it 110%.
Sure did.
And I'm going on stage with somebody that is that intense. And Dave was a pretty laid back guy off stage. He was a vegetarian and fairly quiet, had a really wonderful dry sense of humor.
Right.
And I think, you know, we always got on really well and had a similar love for the blues and rock and roll. That attitude was there with the both of us. So we played anywhere and everywhere. And I think that was one of the reasons we had success. And it was really good. And we had tons and tons of fun.
Ten out of 12 months during that period where you guys were playing live. I think I saw you here at the night shift on the night shift tour. I'm pretty sure. And I remember Lonesome Dave and you were on your drums and all the guys next to you jumped over the back of the stage and on and landed in Fool for the City hit. And we were just in heaven because that music was such a rock and roll part of us. I mean, you guys really found a sound, and it seemed to go for a long time, right? It continued at least. I mean, it's going today, but I mean, it really you had a churn through the 70s, you had a churn through the 80s. What were some of the highlights for you, Roger, in a nutshell, over those years after you guys found your spot? What were some of the highlights of your life as a member of Foghat as you were growing through it?
I loved every minute of it.
I bet.
I was much better on the road. If I had any time off, I would probably fish and whatever, but idle hands are not good for the drummer. And this thing, I indulged probably too much in other stuff, but playing was always what I wanted to do. Like whenever we played, nobody was doing drugs or drinking before you played. Right. Afterwards, party. But we took playing seriously. I do to this day, always did, because that hour and a half or whatever, how long it is on stage,
right?
That's the magic. That's why we did it in the first place, because inherently musicians don't get paid, or they don't get paid enough, probably not even enough to buy a sandwich or a glass of wine, or probably pay for their petrol.
Right.
But playing is what we love to do. And in fact, I've said this before, I think probably most musicians are successful, you know, in whatever manner their success or degree of success, it's because you're selfish.
Right.
The other thing we think about, and I'm not saying that we're nasty bastards or anything. No. It's like we're focused. You only get to the point where we play anything, anywhere, and do anything and do whatever you have to do to make it.
Right.
And it's that moment on stage. There are those times when you're in the studio and you really feel like there's a bit of magic is happening. Like it's one of the, you know, songs are like, it's like a moment in time when you're recording something and you stand back and go, that's it. And the producer says, you're not doing any more takes. That's the one. It's like, and you sit there and you listen. I mean, I'd listened to some stuff and gone, wow, that was really good.
Right.
And that's what it's about. That's that moment in time when you think that you've got a little bit of magic down on vinyl, and that's what we all sort of live for. And playing on stage and having the people hip hip hooray for you.
Oh, totally. And we did, and that's the beauty of it, Roger. As you well know, everybody wants to take their music out and play live. That's the biggest part of being in a band. You guys elevated yourselves, it seems, because everything that you had in studio was fabulous, and then to hear them live, it was even better. And that's why we were like, boy, these guys are continuing. In the 80s, why did Lonesome Dave decide to head back to England and take a break?
I've thought about that a number of times. Oddly enough, he didn't tell me he was leaving. I got home from the tour, and my wife at the time said, you know, Linda and Dave are leaving. I said, no. Apparently Linda had been sending all their furniture and stuff back to England. About 2 weeks later, we had a meeting at Dave's house with myself and Dave and the manager. And I was kind of in a state of shock. I'd probably been drinking a bit as well. And Dave said, well, we had a warehouse full of like staging and all this equipment. And Dave said, well, you know, you can have that. What do I want to do with the warehouse? But cabinets and staging, 3 or 4 guitars, obviously all my drums. So Dave moved back to England. I didn't do much for about a month or two, and then myself and Eric Cartwright, who was the guitar player with Foghat at the time, got together, and then we had a keyboard friend of mine who was living locally, and then Craig, who was living locally as well. We started jamming in my house. I had a room that you could play music in, and then we started playing some local clubs and just to play, have fun.
Right.
And then a promoter in New England gave us some gigs. We were called the Knee Tremblers.
Nice.
And we started playing. We did some shows. The keyboard player left, then we got another singer, guitar player, and we were doing some Foghat songs, of course, because three quarters of the band anyway.
Right.
They started advertising us as Foghat, and eventually we started going out as Foghat.
Right.
Dave, back in
1993, was it?
No, he came back earlier than that, but 1990. I think Dave's idea was he wanted to be a songwriter.
Right.
We'd actually recorded prior to Dave leaving. We'd recorded. Our recording contract was up with Warner Brothers or Bearsville. We recorded 6 songs down in Atlanta with a producer named Eddie Offord. It was really good, really worked really well. Kenny Aronson was playing bass on that record, whatever that means. He was great.
Wow.
A friend too. And our manager at the time tried to get a record deal. I assume he did.
Right.
But he didn't get one. In fact, I don't know what happened to those songs. They're around somewhere.
Wow.
So I think that's why Dave left, because we'd been on the road a while, and it was, I guess Dave wanted a change.
Yeah.
I was quite happy playing on the road. And so there was a brief period where Dave and I were arm wrestling around the States with 2 Foghats, but eventually we got back together again, which is what I always wanted anyway.
Yes. That was Return of the Boogeyman, wasn't that?
Yeah, where is it? Actually, we own the rights. Or rather, I should say I own the rights to this stuff, because actually we paid for this record. You see that?
Oh, yeah. I love that.
Yeah, it's a really good record. It's the original band playing on it. And it was paid for out of mine and Dave's royalty monies. That's what paid for it.
Right.
It was a terrific record. Rod Price, Tony Stevens. Tony was always a really good bass player, a bit of a pain in the ass, but a good bass player.
Right.
And Rob Price is a brilliant guitar player.
Sure.
And so we did that, and I think it had a degree of success. Actually, we're over the next once we've got Sonic Mojo off and on the ground, as it were, and rolling, I think we're going to look at re-releasing Return of the Boogeymen and probably put it on vinyl.
Oh, fabulous.
So, yeah. It was a really good record. Nick Jameson produced it, and I think it has some really terrific tracks on there. there's also a segment where we're playing like acoustically with, which I thought was absolutely brilliant.
Oh yeah,
I think it's out of print at the moment, but we're going to do something with that as soon as we've got a little bit of time.
Oh, I loved when I heard that, because I hadn't heard you guys in a while, and I was very excited when I heard that in the early 90s. And you guys kept touring on and off pretty much through the 90s. And then the late 90s, around 99, I guess Rod left and was replaced by Brian Bassett.
Yes.
Wow. That's fun.
And I have Lonesome Dave to thank for that. Brian Bassett is an absolutely fantastic human being, one of the best people I know.
Right.
He is a brilliant guitar player and slide guitar player. He actually worked a number of tours with, or actually certainly one tour with Rod. So they had 3 guitar players in the band. But Brian is fantastic. So he joined the band with Dave, and Rod left because he'd had enough of touring. Rod didn't enjoy touring like myself and Dave. It was in our DNA. I mean,
I bet
going on the road that hour and a half each night, that's what you want. That's why we do it. The rest of the time is hurry up and wait, trains, planes, automobiles. It's like that's the work. Playing.
Right. But when you're out there, and that's the heaven for Roger Earl.
Playing is the best, and Dave was always great to play with. And one other thing that's interesting about our last tour that I did with Dave, we would hang out on the bus afterwards and talk about growing up in London. We didn't know each other, but we went to all the same shows together. It was good. In fact, I think on that last tour, Dave and I always got on all right. But I think we got real close on that last tour. It was good for everybody, and it was a sad day when we lost him.
Well, you did in February of 2000. I was going to bring that up just because that had to be a big loss for you after all those years. And you kicked yourself back in and decided to go on. You got Charlie Hoon, unbelievable guy, with Ted Nugent and Humble Pie. And you kept going, Roger. And that is what's amazing. That was 23 years ago when you lost Dave. But Roger Earl said, I ain't stopping. Right?
The line is, I'm going to roll till I'm old, going to rock till I drop.
Yes.
They got road fever.
I love that.
Charlie was a great singer, good guitar player, a great singer, actually. It really came about because we'd done a show with, back in the early 70s, we did lots of shows with Humble Pie. Stevie Marriott was an absolute enormous talent, even though he was only 5'1". His voice, his guitar playing, his power on stage. They were a great band. We did lots of shows together. Wow. And I like to think that we became really good friends.
Yeah.
And when Charlie joined the band, he had a great voice. In fact, Dave and I, we did a show, and Humble Pie were opening up for us with Charlie singing.
Wow.
Dave and I said, let's go and see what this guy's got under his fingernails.
Right.
The band started playing. It sounded okay. But then Charlie started singing, and Dave and I looked at each other and went, whoa.
Wow.
I mean, anybody who can do a facsimile of Stevie Marriott has a great set of pipes. So, in fact, Charlie was, at the time, was the only choice for me to join Foghat, and he did. I sent him about 20 or 30 songs. I remember at the time, my wife said, "Isn't that a lot of songs?" And she said, and I said, "Hey, if he wants to join the band, he'll learn them." And Charlie came to my house out here in Long Island. He flew into the island, and we spent a couple of days. I just had a pad, and Charlie had a guitar, and we were going through stuff, and it sounded like Humble Pie had joined Foghat.
Since 2000, Roger, the band has continued to tour relentlessly with your leadership, and it's just what has been really the main cause of you just wanting to continue to play with this amazing band throughout these years? I know we've talked about it on the show, is that feeling of the live part of you. I mean, look at all the live records that have been released over the last 20 years. I love that. And that makes total sense, given the sound of the live. What have been the couple things that have kept your mojo going up to Sonic Mojo?
Well, really, I think I did say this, but I've always played with great players, and this band, this current incarnation of the band, I hopefully will be the one that will carry me through to when I stop, because we all have to stop sometime or another. Right. When the good Lord says, "You've had enough down there." Come on. No. I love playing with these guys. There is a real camaraderie in this band. Scott Holt and Rodney O'Quinn bring a great deal of power and enjoyment to this band. They're so positive, and Brian is. We love playing. We have a little thing where before we go on stage, we hold each other and like have a few things, but that's another story. It's like, and making music. I love. That's why we do it anyway, because to be creative and to be able to sort of write new material. It doesn't matter if it doesn't chart or you don't. It's being creative. That's what I love. And with this band, I've always enjoyed that experience of making records and the creative side of music. But with this band, it's like maybe because I've learned a few things over the years. Hopefully we do. This band acts and is a real band. We play together. We hang out together. There is never any aggro. When it comes to like songs, everybody's involved in it. Everybody, and we all. And the interesting part about this, we all seem to agree when something is working, like a song, like with this record with Sonic Mojo. Right. All the songs on this record, we all went, yeah, that's really good. We'll keep this one. We'll because it was recorded over 2 or 3 years, and the songs that weren't quite making it, we probably got at least a dozen other songs that we recorded that just, it was like, nah, that needs more work. And a number of these songs were like, they come together really easily. It's like, and it's like, that's the magic of making music when when it's working and everybody's going right, and you sit down and listen to the playback, and every one of us are like laughing and grinning at each other. Yes. And other times it's like, nah. So the experience of making music is like it's given this band a whole new lease on life, I think. And as I said earlier, I'm going to roll till I'm old and rock till I drop. And I love what I'm one of those fortunate people in this world that gets to earn a living making music, and I play with a real band.
Well, what you should feel too, Roger Earl, is that again, I'm one of them. That your music is timeless to me, and it is honestly some of the most special music that I've ever had in my life has been Foghat, and so to be able to see you and talk to you and see how you're continuing to surge, and also the cherry on the top here is your wine business. Are you continuing with that with Linda? Is that something you're continuing?
Wine. Yes. In fact, we were just on tour this year, and we were up in Oregon, which of course all our wines up to this point have come from central coast of California, right? And because the COVID nightmare here, and like we stopped sort of going out picking grapes and all that stuff. But this year I was in Oregon State, and I met some winemakers and growers up there, some farmers, and I think we're probably going to be doing some wine from the Oregon area. But right at the moment, we're working on the album, so promoting the record and playing. But I think that will come. At the moment, we have a 2013 Pinot Noir from Central Coast of California. We have a 2014 Chardonnay from the Central Coast.
My favorite. Yep.
Actually, yeah, a nice one. It's a little long in the tooth for a shard, but it tastes delicious. Yeah, sometimes some wines work, and some we always had a great winemaker. His name was Steve Rasmussen.
Right.
He's not making wine at the moment. He's doing something else. He's bottling wine. But it's fun. I love going out. A couple of our wines, 2010, 2008, early days, we went out and we actually picked the grapes and made the wine with our winemaker overseeing it. So, we got our hands sort of grubby. But I've got to tell you one thing: the people who actually work in the vineyards, who pick the grapes, these folks work really hard. They're up usually when it's dark, because they like to pick grapes before it gets too hot.
Right. I mean, my heaven right now, I've set it up in my mind, is getting a bottle of the Foghat Cellars 2014 Chardonnay and sitting down and having the copy of Fool for the City, Foghat Live, and Sonic Mojo, and just listening.
Hold on a second.
That's my heaven. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with this record. It's buy it, and I'm
gonna get it.
We're playing 3 songs from the album in the set now. We have we're doing 2 record release parties. We're doing one in New York City at the Iridium on Saturday 11/12.
Nice.
At the Iridium in New York City, and we're doing one on the West Coast at the Coach House in San Juan Capistrano on 11/17.
Oh, fabulous!
So, and we'll be playing a bunch more of the new songs. We'll be playing some of our classic tunes. We'll be jamming, because do we have permission to jam? Yes, we do.
Oh yeah, you got the right to do that all day with that show. Are you playing any Washington D.C. area shows by any chance in the next few months or so? Or
I think we have 8 or 9 shows to go before we take a break in the end of December, around the holidays.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to get out and do you guys again.
Just go to foghat.com.
You bet.
All our dates are on there. Everything Foghat. Get your t-shirts, your hats. Yeah, but but next year is going to be real busy for us. Like I said, we usually do between 60 and 70 shows a year. We've already got a bunch of dates for next year. Wow.
Perfect. I'll look those up, because I want to get another dose of you, Roger. And this has been an absolute honor. I have been interviewing hundreds of people across the world and legends of music. This is as great as it feels, because of the music that's in here that you gave me, you guys, and I'll never forget it. And in fact, when I get off this interview, I'm going to crank you up at home on Sonos and get back into it. But Roger Earl, thanks so much for being on Living on Music, man.
Steve, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I've thoroughly enjoyed this too. Actually, this would be the breakfast show.
Yay. Yes, the coffee and then the sips. I love that. Let's keep in touch, Roger Earl, and I'd love to be able to see you guys next year. And good luck with this tour. Good luck with Sonic Mojo, and Foghat, keep going on a massively wonderful ride.
We're going to keep on rocking, going to roll to our old, rock till we drop. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Roger. Again, I've said it over and over, to be able to talk to a guy like that, whose music was part of my soul as a kid and growing up, and now to be able to see him continuing to surge, continuing to play well. The band sounds pretty damn hot, considering it's been 52 years since they started that band. And again, limited members left, Roger. And so from the originals. So it's an amazing run for Roger Earl. And Roger, thanks so much, man. It felt it right in here to be able to talk to you about your life as a founder of the band Foghat, and they will always be special to me. I throw on Fool for the City the other day, and I was just like, felt like I was in the back seat of the car driving around when you're in high school and listening to music. Thanks, Roger Earl. Let's keep. in close touch. Real quick, everybody, if you're a Living on Music member, great. If you're not yet, join us on Facebook. Just go to Facebook right here. The URL's right there. Facebook.com/group/Living on Music. We don't ping you forever. You get pinged with some wonderful musical kind of plethora of things that we toss out there. Plus, you get pinged whenever there are going to be new Living on Music episodes, and we've got a few more amazing ones coming up in the next few months. So go to Facebook. Also, YouTube. Raising the YouTube number of subscribers is a big deal to anybody like me, and so love to have you subscribe. You just go to YouTube, subscribe, and again, you'll only get pinged when episodes are coming, and that is not every minute, so it's not a big deal with that. And also, if you're a podcaster, we are on most major podcasts. You can find Living on Music with Steve Houck on your favorite podcast, and you can probably go right to it. If not, you go to Spreaker right here, and also on the right here, it has all the major podcasts too, and you click there and it goes to Living on Music there. But the episodes for the last 6-8 months are on there, and there's some amazing stuff. So please join us there. And if you want to become part of the legacy of Living on Music, again, I've been doing this show since the pandemic to engage musicians, and I have been doing it pro bono. Luckily, had a TV career, so I had some, money put aside, but wanted to try to continue to do this show and really just cover expenses and my editor, Todd Jones. And we want to be able to keep this going. So if you'd like to contribute and be a lifelong legacy part of Living on Music, go to Venmo at Living on Music LLC, and anything is fine. It does not matter the amount. It is just a wonderful, wonderful gesture, and we really appreciate. We've gotten a number of them from musicians I've had on, from other people in the region, from members of the of Living on Music, including the golden ticket lady, Trisha Wardino, who was the first donation and is by far the most that I've gotten from anybody. And love you, Trisha. That's so sweet. But anyway, please become part of Living on Music. And again, if you are listening to music, if you're up, down, sideways, you know how much that does to kind of get you back on track and enrich yourself. And just remember, whenever you need help, keep living on music.